releases of comic books are so outright antagonistic that we have to come up with a way to protect our customers and our subscribers from the detrimental whims of major publishers. How did that end up being our job?
Come on and visit for any occasion. Don't keep patting down waiting. Comics and conversation. Keep the conversation moving along. Keep reading comics, keep your local store strong. If it's hard, then it's a job for the challengers. Comics and conversation, y'all.
From Challengers Comics and Conversation in Chicago, this is Contest of Challengers, a comics industry business podcast with Patrick Brower and W. Dal Bush.
Take three.
Take three.
What an extra special time to do a podcast.
Yep.
Or three of them in one night.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? I had a very specific way I was planning to start this episode. And that was before I, worked today.
Sure.
And then today was a day that I'll say it, hated.
Yep.
Hated this day.
You definitely did.
Not even because of most people, just because of a few people.
Sure.
And just because of the situation of how work is now.
Yep.
And last Friday was also, the entire day was spent just catching up.
Sure.
And this week was the same, but that's because there was a lot of sales stuff involved.
Sure.
And so many things just require so much extra work and so many extra questions. But the majority of people, great, happy to be there, want to take part of the sale. Great. But there were two specific instances that stick out.
Okay.
And we'll discuss them.
Great.
We'll discuss them now. I'm sure you noticed a review we got today.
I did, and then I couldn't get into it.
Right. Because they changed it.
Well, that's weird. So I didn't get to see the whole thing.
No one did.
Okay.
So all you got to see was when we get a Google review, we get an email from Google Business saying, hey, you got a new review, and it shows us a snippet as if it was like a text box on your phone. It says, hey, you got a text from Dal, and it shows me the first couple of words. And then you got to open it to see the rest.
Right.
If you have your phone set that way, I know you can set it to where it just says text message. So the first part of it said, the woman with the tattoos is extremely rude. I go to this store several. That's all we got.
Right.
And it was 1 star. Now, every woman who works for us has tattoos.
You're right.
Yeah, all of them.
That's true.
So, who could it be? Gina and I thought about it, and we think it was a woman from earlier today.
Okay.
Who took part in the sale, and then came back for one pop vinyl.
Okay.
It was a new pop vinyl, so it wasn't part of the sale.
Sure.
And what do our pop vinyls cost normally?
$11.99.
Right. So if you are buying a pop vinyl, what would you estimate the entire cost to be?
$14.
So this woman gets her pop vinyl, and Gina's like, okay, your total is $13.20, whatever.
Sure.
And she goes, what? It's $11.
It's definitely...
And I'm like, well, there's tax. But she said $13. I go, yeah, the pop is $11.99, and it's 10.25%. I know there's tax on things. Okay, then you know that's like an extra $1.25 added to it. So if your pop is $12 and it's $1.25 extra, it becomes $13.25 or 13 whatever, like $13.20 something.
Sure.
And let me point out, I said that.
You did.
I did. So then Gina finishes the transaction. She's like, do you want a receipt? The woman's like, yes. To which I said to Gina afterwards, as a rule of thumb, for me, if somebody ever questions a total, I give them a receipt no matter what.
Sure.
Just so they can see it for themselves.
Sure.
And then the woman had said, well, I know that there's tax, but she said $13. Yeah, it was $13.
You'll see it on the receipt.
So we think it was her.
Okay.
But none of that makes any sense because Gina was never rude.
Maybe you were the rude woman with the tattoos. Maybe you were just misgendered.
It's possible, But, I mean, none of us were rude. But, I mean, I could see where they could, like, they might feel like they were talked down to.
Sure.
But they were talked down to because they clearly didn't understand it.
Sure.
So, I don't know. I thought that was really weird.
weird.
So, anyway, I messaged, I replied right away to the 1-star review and said, hey, your review called out a woman with tattoos, but all of the women who work here have tattoos. Could you please elaborate on which situation you're referring to? We'd like to make sure that we can take care of this. Heard nothing back.
No.
And you won't.
No.
But it's so weird to me that from the time that they wrote it to the time that I went to it, they had edited it and took out the actual.
Very
so
fast.
They changed it just to a star rating.
Yeah.
And then the other situation, which neither of us are clear on what happened, there was somebody in who had a list that I think was working with a library or something.
Okay.
And we had gotten our UPS delivery, so there were shipments from everybody except Ingram today.
Okay.
So, not a ton of stuff, but stuff.
Yeah.
And lots of boxes and envelopes and whatnot.
Yep.
So we're both working on that, but this person comes up with a list, like I have paper in my hand, like not this list, but a list.
Sure.
And said, hey, I'm looking for the stuff for the such and such library or whatever, and I don't know anything about this, but like they have these books here, and if you don't have those, can you give me suggestions of things that are close to it? Mm-hmm. And Gina's like, sure. So like they go into sidekicks, right?
Okay.
And he comes out with a couple of books. He's like, hey, thanks for your help. I'm going to look around for a bit. Can I leave these up here? She's like, sure. So we put them behind the counter. Mm-hmm. Okay. Then he proceeds to look around. Then he's up by the front. Not at the counter, but like looking at the first issue thing, looking at the pins.
Okay.
And then he steps back. So he's standing by the gaming, but he's looking at like the books that are coming out in April.
Okay.
And then the signs down there.
Sure.
And he's hovering for a while.
Okay.
But both of us are immersed in what we were doing.
Sure.
I meant to say immersed or entrenched, and it came out like a little
It
combination
sounded
of both.
like immersed to me.
Okay. And like every once in a while I'd stop and I'd look over and he wasn't looking in my direction and he was just off, and every time he looked like he was intently looking at something.
Okay.
Eventually he just storms out.
Okay.
Book still behind the counter.
Yep.
Now, neither of us know what happened, but
Could take a guess.
He might have been waiting for us to ring him up or something.
Sounds that way.
But he had previously walked up to one of us and asked for help.
Sure.
So he's perfectly capable of doing that.
Sure.
And at no point did he come to the counter.
Sure.
It's just a thing like, look, we know you know how to talk. Mm-hmm. And he never like made eye contact with me. Mm-hmm. He never, I mean, I could have been like, do you need any help? But I'll admit it, I was really busy doing stuff.
Sure.
And he never looked like he wanted help. Mm-hmm. And I don't like being asked for help.
Okay.
Whenever I compare my experiences in other stores, I usually like to use Home Depot as the example, because that is a store that I go to frequently where I know what I need to get, but I often don't know where it is.
Sure.
So I look at how I interact with their staff.
Okay.
If a Home Depot person is in the aisle that I'm looking for stuff in and I can't find it, I will ask them. If they're busy helping someone else, I'll hang back and I'll wait. Mm-hmm. But I'll never just stand there blankly looking at a random shelf and hope they come to me.
Sure.
Now, I'm assuming in this situation, you would have stopped what you're doing, went up and said, hey, do you need anything?
I probably would have, yeah.
Yeah, but they'd already asked for help once,
Sure.
So they know how to do it.
They do. That's true.
And it's not like we were just sitting behind the counter ignoring them.
No.
I don't know. I don't understand why they couldn't. If this is the reason, who knows?
Who knows?
I'm assuming it is.
Probably.
And honestly, when that review came in, mm-hmm. I thought it was that person.
Oh, jeez.
But it seems like
different unhappy person.
I'm guessing gender from the name of the Google review.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Which that person has no other reviews, no likes or no
Wow.
followers.
They were really motivated today.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, but that one just, yeah, we got involved in what we were doing, but, I mean, just ask. Just ask us.
It doesn't seem unfair.
Yeah, I don't understand. And I may be wrong. Maybe they had some family emergency or something.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. I don't think we'll ever know unless we get a bad review for it.
Yeah, I doubt we'll see that person again anytime soon.
But the thing is, like, the interaction that they had with Gina was fine, pleasant.
Sure.
They were happy for the help.
Yeah, until it wasn't.
Yeah, but even so, wouldn't you at least then go to the person that was helping you and say, "Hey, I'm ready"?
I would think, but not everybody apparently.
Sure. Well, anyway, that's all that. How's the sale going for you, Dal?
For me, it's going fine. I like seeing those numbers. It's a tricky year because we're getting a lot more traction on our online sales than we have in years past. Probably because of the shirt design being a lot more popular than in previous years. The tricky thing is that most of our online sales are super straightforward. People want like the Saga compendium or like a Thor trade or whatever, no big deal. But we're occasionally having people finding stuff where it's like, oh, our inventory wasn't correct on that, or oh, that's something that was on hold for somebody, so it is in stock, but it's not for sale, because you can't really put stuff on hold for somebody through Shopify the way you could with RMH and Comic Suite.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing that, as a quick digression, I was watching the Managed Comics Thought Stream yesterday, and I honestly wasn't even going to bring this up, but since there's a natural segue.
The best kind of segues.
Brian from Managed Comics was showing off some of the alterations they're making, one of which is the complete reconfiguration of the customer list screen.
Yeah.
To be something where it's essentially more like how Comic Suite had it, where instead of like a list section where it's subscriptions and a pre-order section where it's pre-orders, and both of those take forever to load and forever to make any changes to, it's essentially like customer orders where you'll search for a name, you'll click on the name, and that name will have the person's active subscriptions, pre-orders, inactive subscriptions. You can make changes directly to their lists on that screen, so everything goes super fast. But there was a button he had on there that he was doing things kind of quickly, and I couldn't see where some of his mouse clicks were. There's a button that said item, and I'm like, oh my god, if this is a way that we can move an item from our Shopify inventory to someone's subscription account, like to essentially hold an in-stock item on someone's account, that would be awesome. And then I realized by rewatching it like 3 times, no, the item button is just the thing you click to put in a subscription or a pre-order.
Oh.
It's not that.
Okay.
So it's like, that's a bummer. Everything else looks great. The whole system looks great, but God, I'd literally give a tooth to get a function where we could just easily take in-stock items and add them to someone's subscription account. I would willingly give up a tooth for that.
Okay, 2 questions about that.
Yeah.
One of your teeth.
One of my teeth.
Who picks?
I pick.
Okay.
Like, it'll be a tooth from inside my head, but I'm going to pick which one it is.
Yeah, and not like a baby tooth you've had all these years because you wouldn't have
No,
that.
this isn't like a Danhausen thing where I have like a jar of teeth.
Sure.
Like, this is a tooth that's currently in my skull.
Okay.
I would give up one of those teeth of my choosing to get a function on Managed Comics that allows us. So if someone, because we get emails and requests all the time where someone's like, hey, can you just throw this aside for me? And as much as we keep saying, hey, you can buy it on our website, like, there is a level of interaction that we will just never get to with people.
Right.
Subscribers have had 10 years, basically, of being able to say, just throw that aside for me and I'll come pick it up.
Do you remember when Comic Suite rolled out that functionality and you got to tell me about it? Because you knew how excited I was going to be.
Sure. Yeah, and honestly, like, having an online storefront, it didn't really matter.
Right.
Because basically you set something aside. It doesn't matter if it's, an
somebody
available
else,
quantity
no one
in the
else
system.
can buy it because it's not on the shelf.
Who cares?
But now
that our online inventory and in-store inventory are one unit, if you set something aside, if something just goes in the back for somebody, you run the risk of someone essentially like finding it later, especially if it's a hot book or something, or during a sale where people are making weird searches and going through weird categories and finding stuff where it's like, that's been an erroneous quantity in our system for almost a year and no one's found it because no one thought to buy it until it was 25% off. So stuff like that has been a real pain in the ass during the sale. And it's not like the customer's fault. Like, no one could be blamed for going
Right.
through an online inventory and going, oh, I want to buy that.
If
Like,
anything,
how
they
would
probably
know?
got excited that they found a thing that they could get.
Of course.
I never followed up with Molly Jane to see if we had that Ramona Frayden hardcover.
I'd have to look at that transaction
Because
associated
I
with
know,
that person.
I know, I don't have it, and I thought that'd be a thing that I would own for sure.
Yeah. So that's been kind of a pain in the ass, but, you know, hopefully it's a system. The setting aside stuff for people and then someone tries to buy that online is a problem that we can either solve internally by being more stringent about how we allocate those quantities so that stuff doesn't ever go to the website if it's going to be a held item. Either we ring it up immediately for somebody, or we adjust those quantities, or we make sure it goes onto their account in Managed Comics, whatever. Obviously, I would, again, a tooth. If we could get something where we could very easily just say, like, oh, someone wants this graphic novel that we have in stock set aside for them, they're going to pick it up later, and just be able to go into their Managed Comics account and say, yep, add that form, flag it to be non-discount because it's coming off the shelf.
Right.
But please set that aside for them so that it pulls it from the available quantity on the online storefront, and it comes up on their account. So they see it on the back end we see it on the back end where it's on their account, and they see it through the customer portal where they look at what's on hold for them and they go, yep, that graphic novel I asked for is there. That would all be great.
This is not in any way putting you on the spot or carving in stone. Hypothetically,
Yes.
which tooth?
I'd probably go with like a back tooth or something. Nothing that's going to affect my eating or my speech.
Don't you think the back teeth affect the eating most? That's where all your grinding comes from.
I mean, okay, so one, I'd probably want to talk to like a dentist or
Okay.
an oral surgeon to be like, what is the least necessary tooth in my mouth?
These two right there.
Yeah, the ones that you're missing?
Uh-huh.
And then, honestly, like, I don't want to...
Don't ask CM Punk.
Yeah, I don't want to give the game away, but I would probably also just get the tooth replaced with something like
Your insurance wouldn't cover that.
I'd pay out of pocket, probably.
God, it's a lot.
It's a lot, but if it was causing me some sort of grief or pain or discomfort or inconvenience, I would
sure.
probably
At
pay
that
for
point,
it.
sure.
Yeah.
But also, I think before that, what you should do is, and this is great comic podcast subject matter, yank that tooth,
Yeah.
and then do like Invisalign or something, straighten those teeth out, because you could probably close that gap to where you don't need it.
I mean, I feel like that'd be super weird, and I gotta assume that any, like, what is the proper name for a dentist? I never remember. Like a dentist or like an oral surgeon or like there's another thing. Orthodontist, thank you. I kept wanting to say like ophthalmologist. I'm like, nope, that's eye stuff.
Well, I mean, I don't know, I just said it. Orthodontists need their eyes. So
Sure,
yeah.
they do. I doubt they would want to do something where it's like, let's shift around all the teeth in your mouth to cover a gap, because now they're kind of all disaligned now or misaligned. Like none of them are where they should be, and they're probably all going to cause other problems.
I'm just saying that like it would straighten out and it would change the way the gap goes. The reason I've never replaced those two missing teeth is because my my tooth line hasn't changed.
Okay.
Like with these gaps, which has been like 6 years now.
Sure.
In theory, the other tooth are supposed to like spread out and loosen and be like, hey, we got more room. Let's just let's get more comfy
Let's
in
dance
here.
around. Yep.
But that hasn't happened, so
Okay.
I haven't bothered to replace them.
Okay.
Also, I would have to pay out of pocket.
You would.
And it'd be thousands of dollars.
It would be thousands of dollars.
And it doesn't affect the way I eat or talk.
And you got that cool side whistle.
And I got that, and I could stick a finger into my mouth without having to open my teeth.
It's super weird though.
Yeah.
I don't like that last one.
You know what else is super weird now?
What's that, Patrick?
This may be a little pedantic, but I'm going to go over for the Contest of Challenger listener how invoicing works in the comics industry.
Uh-huh.
Now, you may tune out. I see you get a little comfortable. You may tune out a little bit because this is all. What do you get yourself a drink? Just sit down a little bit, relax. So, in the past, when we were buying our books mainly from Diamond, we would get one invoice every week. That invoice includes the new product we got shipped to us that week and whatever reorder products had been shipped in that relative time frame.
Yeah, a bit of an asterisk, because sometimes we would have stuff where like it shipped, but it shipped a little bit. Like it was stuff we were getting that week, but they hadn't invoiced us for yet.
Yeah.
So we get invoiced next week, or we get 2 weeks in a row.
And
or whatever.
some of their actual shipping, like Diamond's shipping is always a week behind. What you're paying for on shipping for this invoice is there are the books you got last week.
Right.
Things like that. But the point is, no matter how many reorders we would order during the span of a week, we get one invoice a week from them.
Yep.
And that was kind of standard for other places we were dealing with, but because we were getting the majority of our product from Diamond, it was mainly that invoice.
Right.
And then DC left and went to, well, for us, Lunar.
Right.
UCS, it took me a moment to remember them because they're gone.
Yep.
Well,
for a while.
they don't do. Yeah. Anyway, so Lunar. And Lunar is the same way. You get invoiced once a week.
Yeah, for the books that they just shipped out.
Yeah, and you can, when you add, you can order multiple times during the week, but they wait and add those orders to that one invoice.
Right.
So, for Diamond, for Lunar, we're getting 4 invoices a month, give or take, depending on how the days fall. Some maybe 5. And then, if you look at anybody else that we've used in the past, it's always been an per order basis, like if we use Pyramid or Southern Hobby. You know, Southern Hobby actually, Attaboy, exactly. We place an order, they ship it, they bill us.
Right.
Fine. Southern Hobby has a lot of pre-orders set up where we go in and there could be open tickets, different open tickets on our account in their website.
Yeah.
But they invoice us for each individual shipment.
Yeah, and the shipments are, at this point, it used to be that they would do weekly deliveries, so stuff would just go out.
Yeah.
Now, since they're shipping everything, it's very much on we talk to our rep, he sees if we want stuff sent out, we say yes or no. If we say yes, they pack it, they bill us, that's it. If we say no, then things just sit around until next week, and then eventually, whenever it gets shipped out, that's when we get billed.
Although we got stuff last week, we got stuff this week. We're definitely getting stuff next week because it's new Magic and I think new Pokemon.
Okay.
So we'll be getting stuff from them. But that's one shipment, one invoice. And all that seems easy to navigate, to understand, to keep track of.
Especially for a small business. We don't have like a accounts payable
Receivable department.
Yeah, we don't have that. So like when the bookkeeping can be really like transparent and simplified, like we love it. That's easy for us. It's easy to stay on top of what we owe people.
And I'll talk about how we pay these bills as well. Diamond, Lunar, Southern Hobby, they all have, we do, like the wrestler, ACH, we do automatic withdrawal from the bank account. We authorize it. Like for Diamond and Lunar, I go in and say, all right, here's the amount. You have my permission to take this, basically. Southern Hobby can just take it. For everybody else, it's different. Like for Attaboy or Pyramid, we give them a debit card number, so it's still coming out of the account, but it's it's like a credit card. Fine. But also, these all have ways to do this on their websites.
Yeah.
Now, we also use Hachette, Ingram. Obviously,
Simon & Schuster.
yeah, I was building up the Simon & Schuster, and then of course paying rent a house. Now the way those smaller ones, like your Ingrams and your Hachettes, what they do is you'll place an order, and they'll say, okay, this order is $500, and then they'll take $500. Like they'll hit your card $500.
That's not what Hachette does.
And then what does Hachette do?
Hachette sends us an invoice. I have to call them and give them a credit card number for each individual invoice. No matter how much of that invoice is currently going out, because they do not keep a card on file. They won't do it.
All right, then we have to have a talk because that is not the way that things come out of our account.
No.
Well, I'll go back to Ingram. I'll use Ingram then.
I'll give you a real quick aside on Hachette, and this is part of the problem. So we order in-stock and back-ordered stuff from Hachette on one order. I call them up. I give them a credit card number. If anything is in stock, they charge for that.
Yeah.
Anything that's back ordered, they don't charge until it comes in and ships out. The problem is the store credit card basically has some sort of weird block on it where if they try to run that card again later, it's going to get kicked back. Which is why I have to call them back with a different card for a different account that will pay for the back-ordered stuff that is about to go out. And I've switched over now to just doing the second one, which is harder to do because of elements of where the card gets billed to. But I'm doing that because that one will allow for multiple charges on one purchase order, which is great. So I don't have to call them back randomly through the week to be like, yes, I do want those 2 books that were in back order sent out. Hachette is the worst to deal with, and thankfully they're the one that has the least amount of publishers that we use.
Yeah.
So I can not have to deal with Hachette every single week now. I can deal with them maybe once a month.
Well, I still think what I'm about to say applies to them, but I'll use Ingram mainly.
Okay.
We'll place an Ingram order.
Yes.
And they'll say, okay, your order is $500. So they hit our card for $500. Then they go to pack that order and see, oh, we only have $450 worth of merchandise. So rather than give us $50 back, they run the card a second time for $450 and then never finish the
The hold.
Yeah, the hold just falls off.
That's not fun.
And that's what Hachette does as well. So I think that the way you explained it is for when there's extra, and the way what they do for us when there's the way I'm talking about it is when there's less. Because I frequently get within a 3-day period, I get 2 Hachette amounts.
Okay.
One of them higher, one of them lower.
Okay.
And then the higher one always drops off.
Okay.
And it got to a point, like I think you remember me saying at the end of the year last year, that from now on, whenever I see a Hachette or Ingram charge, I'm not going to do anything until it posts.
Yep, good idea.
So that's those. Then we have Simon & Schuster, who we don't order from all that much. And we have Penguin Random House, who is our first, is our Dad was shaking his head and nodding. So
someone who's been doing the reorders, let me assure you,
Yeah.
Penguin Random House is currently our #1 supplier for backstock. They have Marvel, they have DC, they have Dark Horse, they have IDW, they have the Random House graphics books, they have a crazy number of smaller publishers. Like,
Sure.
Yeah, Diamond at this point is basically like Image and maybe a few other things that Ingram doesn't have.
I was trying to decide if PRH is we spend the most money with them.
Oh, yes.
So the problem is that their whole accounting system doesn't make any sense.
Frustratingly opaque is probably how I would define it.
And you might think, okay, this is just 2 guys who run a small comic shop complaining that things aren't easy for them.
Sure.
And Penguin Random House is an international company that has 1 million accounts probably and has been doing it this way forever.
I don't know the size, but I assume that they're one of the largest book distributors
in the world.
Probably.
But I dare you to ask anybody who works with them if they're happy the way things are handled. And here's why. We've talked about this before, but now we have just more, aggravation, but also concrete
Data points.
Yeah, thanks.
Sure.
That's exactly right. With Penguin Random House, we do, in theory, initial Marvel orders, but we basically do FOCs. So our Marvel orders our new product for Marvel is done weekly. Would you say that's correct?
I suppose,
the FOC is what I'm talking about?
Yeah, because the way that the Penguin Random House deals with initial orders for Marvel is that you can input stuff, when the catalogs go up and the catalogs have kind of a closing date, but it's sort of irrelevant because everything's just going to go into different FOC cards. You don't submit really an order for a catalog so much as you're dropping stuff into all of the buckets that belong to that catalog.
And those buckets are date oriented.
Yeah, it's when those items, when the orders close for those individual items. And so a catalog could contain, multiple buckets, and then multiple buckets could also go to different catalogs. It's very confusing at times to even understand, am I seeing everything from this catalog? Because of the way the catalog itself is kind of a mix of a lot of different things. It's the Penguin Random House initial order situation has gotten so weirdly convoluted that a lot of retailers have basically just gone to the final order cutoff system because you don't have the kind of one catalog like previews. You have a list of things and then it's all over the place because stuff could have been listed well in advance of the catalog or whatever. It's nuts.
And this is a quick side note too, but one of the frustrating things about it is that when you open the monthly catalog, it's not just that month. It's showing you books from the future as well.
Yeah. it's very hard to filter down in a way that makes sense.
Confusing.
But anyway.
So, but I mean, you did illustrate one of the main points. We'll touch on that in just a second. And then, as the person that does the reorders, Dal, how many PRH reorders do you think you do in a week?
A minimum of 1, a maximum of 3. Depends on how much stuff sells. Like, that's the thing. Like, this week I've been doing them like every other day, basically, because we've been selling enough stuff that it's like we got to get these restocks, because it's one of the advantages of PRH as opposed to the way we used to do them under Diamond is Diamond we would do 1 a week because you were paying for freight. So the more stuff you can kind of cram into a box, the better it's going to work out for you. So you want to place as big an order as possible, as infrequently as possible. So we would do 1 weekly reorder regardless of the amount of books that we needed, with the hope that it would be enough books to be less cost per book as far as the freight's concerned. With Penguin Random House, we don't pay freight, so it doesn't matter if you need 3 books or 300 books. You place them as soon as you need books, basically.
Sure.
We've done stuff where, someone said, we realized we're out of stock on players' handbooks or something for D&D. So it's like, okay, well, let's just quickly order some players' handbooks. They'll come in when they come in. Maybe they'll come in with other books that we place around the same time. Maybe they won't. Maybe they'll be its own little box. It doesn't matter. It's fine.
In that situation, do you immediately order, or do you throw it into a cart and wait to do the next order?
The way we do things now, I probably would immediately order it, because the cart situation with Stocky, it's easier if we have kind of a clean cart before we do a reorder.
Yeah.
Instead, what I would probably have to do is like throw it into a cart, do the Stocky order, but then before I upload the Stocky order, I'd sort of have to make a note of what was already in the cart. And then once I upload the Stocky order to the cart, I would then have to go back to the Stocky order and then add the stuff that was already in the cart. It's not easy to do. It's not it's a straightforward process. So I would probably just, like Molly Jane had a thing recently where she was going to throw something in. It's like, let's just process that cart now so that when I do the reorder later tonight, I have something clean to work with.
One of the things I like very much about this new system is, for example, today's PRH order came with no packing slip, no invoice. It's really easy to search it now. You go into the Penguin Random House purchase orders, search the barcode, and it'll say, hey, it's in this order.
I don't know that I've done that. That's pretty cool.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, usually what I'll end up doing is I'll just look at what's on the box, or I'll try and dig up the invoice from the PRH site. But that's cool.
Yeah. So we obviously it was 1,000 different purchase orders,
right?
But it's like, all right, so this one, like, oh, it's in purchase order Stocky 1046.
Okay, I'll have to have
1046, and it's like, like 5 different things. Great.
I don't think I saw that one before, so I'll have to have you show that to me.
Neat. But I mean, like in the past with the old system, if you get a box from Diamond with no packing list,
oh my god, it could be anything.
It's panic.
Yeah,
it was just blind panic. Like, what do we do? How do I do this?
You basically would have to go in item by item and find out, like, where did these come from? And some of them are initial orders, and some of them are replenishments, and whatever. Yeah.
Okay, so we get a monthly statement from Penguin Random House that also we have terms with them. We have, I don't know, 30-day terms, 60-day terms. I don't know what they are, because we try to pay everything up front as much as possible.
As much as possible.
So we get an invoice from them roughly the first of the month every month. And that invoice is always showing the last 6 weeks. So using the different methods of shipping from other publishers and other distributors, if we were to get 6 weeks, if we were to get a statement from Diamond that had 6 weeks worth of invoices, how many invoices would be on it?
12.
You know that's wrong.
I already lost track of the math. You were throwing a lot of numbers at me. 24? 48. 6?
It's 6.
Okay.
If it was a 6-week statement from Diamond, it would have 6 invoices.
6, that's correct.
If Lunar were to do 6-week statements, how many invoices would be on it?
6 invoices.
That is correct. I was going to give people a multiple choice section, but I figured it was too obvious.
Yep.
But then, also, I couldn't tell if you were joking or not. So, we always know what we owe Lunar, what we owe Diamond, what we owe the smaller people, smaller distributors. we never ever know what we owe Simon & Schuster or Penguin Random House.
Nope.
And I recently talked to our credit rep at Simon & Schuster and said, hey, we there's nowhere on your website for us to go and see where we're at, what we owe, what's coming up, like our last payments. How do we do that? And they just said, no, there isn't. It's not set up that way. So with them, we get a monthly statement in the mail. That's it. That's how we know. That's how we know what we owe.
Well, they're going to get acquired by Penguin Random House fairly soon.
Yeah, which doesn't make it any easier because...
Probably.
In a 6-week period, can you tell me how many separate invoices we have from Penguin Random House?
18.
Okay, now you and I talked about this before, so you actually do know the number. Are you joking, or are you just...
I don't remember the number.
Okay. So, I feel like you don't want to play along.
I don't. I honestly don't remember the number.
But I mean, like, so guessing.
I did. I guessed 18.
Okay. The answer is 62.
That's a lot. That's too many invoices.
That's not a lot. That is egregious.
It's more days than there are in the month. We're not getting 2 orders a day.
That is
Actually, shit,
that is
we're not getting 2
ridiculous.
orders a day.
Because they just send stuff out when they get it.
They do.
And it's not even full purchase orders.
There are days where we have gotten Penguin Random House shipments twice in one day from 2 different vendors. I think it was the maximum we ever got was 3 different Penguin Random House shipments in one day. Like UPS dropped off 1. We got stuff in the mail from USPS, like just a couple envelopes with like 2 or 3 books. And then a different UPS driver dropped off a different Penguin Random House box near the end of the day. Like and frequently we're almost every week we'll have a moment where we kind of look in astonishment at how bizarrely things are packed from places like Penguin Random House. Like we'll have 2 boxes, and inside each box is a maximum of 2 manga graphic novels to a minimum of 1 manga graphic novel. And the insane thing is, like, one box is 2 manga graphic novels. The second box is 1 manga graphic novel. And again, these aren't envelopes. These are boxes that could contain, are built for dozens of books. And we're getting 2 and 1. And then the one book is like from purchase order 6002. And then the 2 books in the other box, one's from purchase order 6008, and the other one's from 6002. So even the 2 books that are on the same purchase order and show up on the same day are not arriving in the same boxes. They're packed separately. Like when, from the start, all 3 books could have been in 1 box and probably fit another 12 books on top of that.
Oh, yeah.
It's insane.
We got a corrugated envelope from Hachette today that had 3 manga books in it.
Okay.
Side by side by side. Not stacked.
Not stacked.
Laid out next to each other,
Sure,
and then like vacuum sealed in a corrugated envelope.
Okay. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. And I know, and I'm sure that every distributor could explain why they do these things. But here, I brought this note from... We got a box from Simon & Schuster today, okay?
See.
Right?
I recognize that invoice.
Now, on this invoice, this product invoice,
it says right there at the
there
top.
are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 line items, okay?
Got it.
This was 1 box.
1 box.
It contained 4 separate titles.
Okay.
For a total of 9 books.
Got it.
So 9 books, 4 different titles spread between 9 books.
Got it.
Can you tell me, keep in mind, the numbers are 4 titles and 9 books.
Got it.
How many different purchase orders were attached to this box?
3.
5.
That's a lot.
5 purchase orders for 4 different titles.
That's a lot.
Every single line here is a different purchase order.
Yep.
And some of these are placed months apart.
They really are. Well, we had ordered a set amount of the Tomy graphic novel, and then I guess we'd ordered more. And so Both the original order and the
Yeah,
later
but
order showed
look
up at
at
once.
based off the numbering. Look how
They're very far apart.
Yeah,
Very far apart. That's how long
so-
ago we placed that.
So I get it. They must have just restocked it.
Yeah,
So it's weird to open a box like, oh, we have this many of these now.
that is weird.
But I mean, one box, 5 different purchase orders.
I've always loved on the Simon & Schuster packing slip, the product invoice, the thing that's meant to help you understand what was in an order, that they will usually truncate something to the degree that they don't even tell you what the volume number is.
Nope.
We've gotten stuff where it's like 6 different volumes of My Hero Academia, but they all just say My Hero Academia. And it's like, okay, but which one? And you have the ISBN, but you have to look at the back of every single book to be like, okay, which ISBN number is which volume, instead of just putting volume 12 or whatever at the end.
We're starting to get multiple listings for the same product because the title breakdown in the invoice changes. For example, today we got Jujutsu Kaisen Volume 1,
Okay,
a couple of copies in, right?
great.
So I just, when I was checking them in off the PRH invoice, the order that had ordered it had ordered multiple volumes, right?
Right.
Some of them are Jujutsu Kaisen V1, some are Volume 1, all written out, and it's a separate item. So like when I was using that book to try to duplicate the weird price change thing we were talking about before,
Okay.
that wasn't on the podcast.
Okay.
So I'm like, oh, I go to ring it up, doesn't scan, fine. I type it in, it brings up 2 of the exact same book with just different title descriptions.
In our system?
In our system.
So what that means happens is that something got received through Managed Comics, which means Managed Comics created a new item for it.
Okay.
So I have to go through and find those and delete them because we should
Merge
only have
them,
one.
or-
I can't merge them. It just means
Okay.
deleting one of them, probably
I
the
just
older
mean
one.
merge, which like if there's multiple quantities.
I'll have to take a look. That's a goddamn it.
All right. Well,
That
here's
super sucks. I hate that so much. I can't even tell you. Like, that is a thing that I don't want to complain about Managed Comics. I don't. But that is a thing that is going to be a long-term pain in the ass, is the fact that Managed Comics as a platform does not understand our existing inventory. Anything that we received or created prior to Managed Comics, it might as well not even exist. So that when we import invoices into Managed Comics that contain those items, Managed Comics is like, well, I don't see that you've ever had Saga volumes or any Marvel graphic novel prior to 2022. So I'm just going to go ahead and create that for you. And it's like, no, don't. And it's like there are things we literally cannot receive through Managed Comics because all it's going to do is create more work for us later.
here's a question that's that's related to that but isn't.
Yeah.
When creating a new item in Shopify,
Uh-huh.
today we got in a bunch of new Marvel Legends.
Yep.
So I was creating all those.
Sure.
And what we're doing is we're using, as a shortcut, we use the UPC, the ISBN number, the UPC code, as the SKU number.
Sure. And as the barcode.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when I'm putting in the SKU,
Yeah.
several times, because each time when you scan in the SKU and then you scan in the barcode, the screen resets.
Yeah, it saves it. Because
Okay.
when you hit enter, basically, it's telling it, okay, save this.
Okay. So multiple times, but not every time, when I put the barcode into the SKU,
Uh-huh.
I get a quick message that says, duplicate SKU. If you want to batch edit, click here, but then the screen resets and it's gone.
Okay.
So initially I thought it meant like, oh, that exists somewhere else in the system, but then it
That is what it
overwrites it or whatever it does. Like,
No, it basically means that you're going to have the situation you had with that Jujutsu Kaisen where when you're trying to scan it, it's going to come up and go, okay, well, there's two things in the system with this SKU or this barcode or whatever.
Because that was all done just through Shopify, not through Managed Comics.
Sure, doesn't matter.
Okay.
It's probably the Rat Trap Core Classic or Core Transformer figure because we've had that in the system before.
This is all Marvel Legends.
Couldn't tell you what it is then.
Yeah. I wonder if it's that some of them were offered as case lots because Marvel has...
That wouldn't matter because we only have in the system what we've already received, not what we
Weird.
haven't received.
Well, we can double check because it's all just the stuff we got today.
Yeah, I mean, with the Jujutsu Kaisen thing alone, I'm clearly going to be going into the system tonight to try to figure out what duplicates we have and what to do about that.
Well, all right, so we got off... these are all valid and important things, but we got off the point
I
of
can't take pain in my ass.
the PRH invoicing, it's 61, 62, it's over 60 basically every time.
That's a lot.
And it's all just amounts.
Yeah.
And
because that's how PRH does their billing. You don't owe PRH a set amount of money. You owe on invoices.
Right. But also, because we are on terms, these are just those 6 weeks worth of things.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I just blind send them money every Monday.
Okay.
That's never listed on those statements because it's being applied to older things.
Okay.
So we have a brand new credit rep who I had to talk to this week to be like, hey, look, I don't like we got a statement and it was thousands of dollars more than I had expected.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, look, I see this total here, but I don't see any of the money I've been sending. Can you verify you've been getting that?
Right.
And the end result of this was that they had been getting it. They had been applying it. We just order so fucking much from them that we owed them thousands of dollars more than I planned for.
Yep.
So that was that combined with the horrible weather from last week.
Mm-hmm.
It made it to be like, oh, the sale isn't like, hey, we could work on some like new additions to the store. It's like, no, we just need that to stay current.
I mean, I never thought that that's what the sale was going to be this year, based on like.
Why would it be? It never has been.
Well, we've always, not always, but in most years we've intended the sale to be something where it's like, okay, because of this we can, like you said, do special projects or fix something with the store or whatever. This year, with how much more our business costs to run for a lot of reasons, I just looked at the sale as like, hopefully we can just have a little breathing room. That's about it. Like, that's literally all I thought we'd be able to do with the sale this year.
Yeah.
And last week with the weather, I don't want to say it wiped that out, but it was like, all right.
Yeah, it definitely made the sale a little more necessary.
Yeah. Which, honestly, is one of the reasons why it's always been in February, because January and February tend to be down months, and our costs don't reduce for January and February. We, like any brick-and-mortar business, we have certain fixed costs above and beyond, the fluctuations of inventory.
Yeah.
And those become harder to... those obligations become harder to meet in January and February. So a sale in February that can help bring in a little bit of additional revenue, even if it means we're making less profit, is still necessary.
Yeah. So that was an eye-opening conversation with Penguin Random House this week.
Sure.
Like, I still don't understand their billing.
No.
But they've pointed out numerous times to all of us in the comics industry, it's not going to change.
No.
There's plenty of things that they're doing brand new just for us. There's plenty of things that they're learning on and they're adapting. This is not one of them. This is the way it works for every bookstore they deal with.
Pretty
They're
insane.
not going to change.
It's insane to just have this sense of like, I don't know how much money I owe one of my major suppliers.
Yeah.
And I can't get them to explain it to me in a straightforward manner. Like, that's super weird.
Well, it creates this general feeling of unease. And I don't like it.
No, not great.
As our financial guy, I don't like it.
I can imagine.
Speaking of bills and paying people and all these financial things, you and I learned something very interesting this week in regards to sales tax. Specifically, sales tax as is or isn't collected on our website.
Oh, yeah, no, we definitely had to dig into Shopify a little bit to understand, like, how
I
orders...
love, as I'm talking, I'm like, he's not getting it.
No,
he's
I understood.
Not, there it is. No, I mean, I saw when you got it.
I understood the whole time what you were talking
Oh,
about.
okay, you looked confused. And then you did the, yeah, okay.
Yeah, it was just performative. That's just for the podcast.
Oh, it's very good. It actually...
That was for a transitional audio cue. That's
Gotcha.
about it. Oh, yeah, we learned a lot about Shopify's taxes this week.
We got confused because...
Did you get it that time?
I did.
I did.
Yeah, no, that was real good.
Thanks.
Did you see me smile at it?
I did.
Yeah. That was my non-verbal cue.
Got it.
We were looking at a lot of... Because a lot of our sale orders are from other parts of the country.
Sure.
And
most shipping orders are from people who do not live in Illinois.
And don't realize that they can't pick it up outside.
Well,
how many times have we gotten
4 times maybe during the sale.
Today,
Today,
like, yeah.
Yeah, And it's not even from people who don't realize what's happening. It's just that they're so far along in the process where it's like, oh no, I screwed it up. Like, they realize they hit the wrong button or whatever. It's just, you can't go back and say, oh no, ship this out. Like, the order's completed. We would have to go in and alter that order. Yeah, I wish that Shopify had any inclination to fix their local pickup
curbside discrepancy.
I was going to say, like, the curbside is what we had to create, because
those are my notes.
there is a flaw with how the local pickup option was added by Shopify, where basically if you use an express checkout option like PayPal Express or Google Pay or whatever, it skips the part that asks you whether you want to have local pickup or if you want to have your item shipped. So in order to provide for people to both use express options and give them the option of picking up at the store, we had to create an additional shipping thing called curbside pickup. That's just a free shipping option. Because retailers and shop owners and website owners have been kind of complaining to Shopify about this since the early days of the pandemic, when Shopify rolled this local pickup thing out, which was great. And then people went, hey, but you can only use it if you're not using the express payment options. I want people to be able to use express payment options and pick up at my store. And Shopify basically went, okay, we hear you. And then didn't do anything about it. And I know that people are still complaining about it because I was the one who opened the support ticket about it on the Shopify help forums.
And you get an email every time somebody adds to it saying, what's going on? When are they going to fix this?
Every single time. And that's the secret of the Shopify help forums, is that basically everything is Shopify will never fix this.
Nope.
Like, every flaw with the system, everything that needs a feature update, you'll get maybe someone from Shopify coming in and going, okay, well, we'll tell it to the programmers, and then you'll see that it was last updated like 18 months ago.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, great. So this is never getting fixed.
But getting back to sales tax.
Yeah, so we noticed that some out-of-state folks were not getting sales tax collected, and we went, that's weird. We investigated it, and according to Shopify, and if you're a tax preparer, you can tell us that this is incorrect. Basically, like, we have to collect sales tax within Illinois because we're based in Illinois. For people who are out of state, we only have to collect sales tax if we exceed a certain level in sales.
A sales threshold.
Based on each state.
That's different per state.
Yeah, but the cool thing is you can go into Shopify settings in the taxes and fees screen or whatever they call it, and they will tell you, like, okay, well, here are the states, and then here's how close you are to needing to collect sales tax, and we are so insignificant that we're like 1% of the
0%
way
1%
to owing,
in most states,
like the state of New York, any tax revenue. So it's like, okay, great, got it.
Yeah, it's just so weird to find out that it's different per state.
Yeah,
and it's a threshold you don't pay tax till. And
so that was pretty interesting, like how they collect that and how it's dispersed. Which again is sort of cool because it's, you know, part of the thing is that, like, for the state of Illinois, like, we don't pay Illinois that sales tax. Shopify collects it and pays it out. Like, that's just how it works.
Well, I have another Shopify billing concern, but this isn't really podcast conversation. But remember those, we went over those charges a couple days ago for all the apps and things.
Yes.
We got another one today.
Yes. I saw.
With even more shipping.
Yep.
And more fees.
Yep.
Like, why are there two of these?
Couldn't tell.
And they're very different.
Yep.
I don't like that. Well, this was a very heavy finance episode.
It's a sale.
Yeah. Yeah, but all these things come up at that time.
They did, it's true.
So I figured we'd ease out of it with PDFs we've read recently.
Okay.
I read a bunch of stuff this week.
What'd you read, Patrick?
Well, I'm up to issue 4 of Crimson Cage.
I'm still just reading it in print.
I know. It's so good, though.
Yeah, it is. It's very
Such a good book.
I like it a lot.
I love being 2 issues ahead.
Sure.
It's pretty great. I read Radiant Red. I know you talked about it last time.
What'd you think?
I liked it a lot.
It's very good.
I'm more invested in that character than I think I am the Radiant Black character.
Substantially.
Yeah.
And I like the art better.
Yeah, the art definitely.
Come on.
Yeah.
Always so good.
David, Darko, whichever
whatever
they prefer.
name he wants to go by.
Real good. And it's funny to me. It's like, I'm going to read this book.
Yeah.
I don't read Radiant Black anymore, but I'm going to read Radiant Red.
I'm also off it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I read Rogue Sun, though. The other.
Yeah, how was that?
Not good.
Yeah.
Not good.
Okay.
I don't like any of the characters in the book, and a lot of it didn't click for me at all. I found it to be really unentertaining. Yeah, it did not work for me at all.
Last week I raved about Batman Killing Time and it's basically the antidote to anyone who doesn't want to read Batman now, mired in continuity and all the current changes to the Gotham structure.
Okay.
Which, I mean, those changes are fine. Things progress. But Killing Time is such a great classic, any era of Batman story, that I think that it has the potential to really appeal to lapsed Batman readers. But so does World's Finest. Did you read that?
No, I don't read any of the DC previews anymore.
Oh, okay.
I hate their
Oh, that's
interface,
right. I
and
remember that.
I've sworn it off as long as they keep making me get like activation codes or whatever.
Sure.
Nope.
So I read World's Finest 1. It's just fun.
Yeah.
It's Superman, Batman, but it's also, the Daily Planet stuff, and it's Robin, and it's...
I like the stuff that was in Detective 1050.
Yeah, I didn't read that stuff.
Very fun.
This is a couple different eras, so there's like a couple of different costumes per each person. There is Dick Grayson Robin with pants.
Yeah, I do like that design.
Yeah, and it's one story told at like different points.
You reminded me of something. Did you read next week's Nightwing yet?
Yeah.
They do a sort of similar thing at the beginning where they're in their rebirth costumes.
They're the rebirth costumes. The red Nightwing suit.
Nightwing specifically is in his red, very early days
Superman
of
with
suit.
the belt that comes to points.
Yeah, and the blue boots.
Yeah.
Because they hadn't figured out yet that it looks like he's wearing pajamas until you put the red boots on him.
Yeah, I did like that. Everybody was in there. His cape comes up. And
that was a neat little touch. And it's kind of unnecessary because it's like, you can pick up from the context that this is a few years ago.
Right.
But
still,
it was
no,
still
I
a neat
thought
thing
it was
to see. Like, I thought it was a nice touch.
Yeah. World's Finest, Dan Mora's art, real fun.
Sure. Dan Mora's great.
I never remember the name of this book. It's the new Vault book written by Tim Seeley. That's Sundown.
West of Sundown.
West of Sundown.
Mm-hmm. I read that tonight.
I think that it's basically like Universal Monsters, but a Western.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that horror...
I just thought it was like Interview with a Vampire, but like also... what was the Tom Cruise, Nicole Kidman movie where they're like homesteaders, where they're like heading west?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Sorry.
Like I was going to... Those two Tom Cruise movies put together, basically.
Eyes Wide Shut.
No. I wish it was more like Eyes Wide Shut. I liked Eyes Wide Shut.
I think that... we got yet another... like this is our 5th hype email from Vault today about it. This was specifically like, this is going to do great for challengers. This will do good for challengers. Like, we're not falling for the order 1,000 copies. This is going to be great.
Yeah,
but I think that this will have... I think this could do better than your average Vault book.
Maybe.
I read the first 2 issues.
I just read the first one.
Yeah.
It was not for me.
Yeah, they're expanding it a little bit in the second one.
Okay.
I thought that was... it has interesting potential. I feel like there was another big book that I read that I can't remember.
Yeah, the only 2 I read tonight were Rogue Sun and that West of Sundown.
Okay. I also tried really hard to read thoroughly I hate doing this. I don't like talking about books that we read and hated. Can you see the board?
Is that Trial of the Amazons?
Well, I wasn't going to say it out loud.
Is that blank of the blank?
Yes. To quote Dal Bush from mere moments ago, it's not for me.
Yeah, I have not really been checked in on the Wonder Woman part of the DC universe for a while. I think I read the first issue of the Becky Cloonan...
Michael Conrad
run.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting, but it wasn't anything that I wanted to keep up with.
Well, she's back from space now.
Yeah, I saw that.
Diana,
I've seen the covers, yeah.
It's so weird because they also, in the Justice League Annual, that's, Diana's back.
Because it's been Hippolyta on the Justice League this whole time.
Yeah. It's also really weird because this Justice League Annual leads into the Justice League Legion of Superheroes miniseries that came out like a month ago. Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
Lord.
it was supposed to be the 2021 annual, but now it's the 2022 annual.
So late they had to put it in a different calendar year.
Different calendar year.
Unbelievable.
If you've been reading any of the Amazon books at all, this is a good job of incorporating everything.
Okay.
It comes out of Nubia.
Yeah.
It comes out of Wonder Girl.
Okay.
It is definitely the event for that part of the universe.
It's just a very weird thing to do, to have like an all-encompassing Wonder Woman thing where Wonder Woman as a title is basically club only for us at this point. And that club only is like, I don't know, maybe 12 or 15 people. Nubia does okay, but like about the same or less. Wonder Girl does a lot better, but only when Joelle was drawing it. And a lot of people recently have realized, like, oh, Joelle's not drawing this anymore. I don't care.
Oh, good news. She draws most of the Wonder Girl stuff in this.
Sure. And I mean, I think she's doing the 2-issue Trials of the Amazon Wonder Girl, which would have essentially been like 7 and 8 or 8 or 9 or whatever. Yeah, very weird. So this is a crossover event where for us, I don't know that there's a ton of fans for it available, basically.
So there's a lot of DC crossover things happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
For example, there's the 2-issue Nightwing Superman Son of Kal-El crossover.
Yep.
Not an event book, but a crossover.
Yeah, one creative team doing 2 issues across 2 series.
Right, so we pulled those books, like if you got Nightwing, but you don't get Superman, we pulled you Superman.
Right.
Because
But we did not go the other way. It starts at Nightwing, so we basically... And Nightwing has more readers to it, basically.
Yeah.
And I think we ordered a few more Nightwing copies for the shelf than we would have, assuming there might be a couple people who don't pick up Nightwing normally, who when they get that Superman issue are going to be like, hey, I did not read the beginning of this story.
But they have this Earth 3 crossover.
Oh my god.
Between
Suicide Squad,
Titans,
Flash, and Titans Academy.
Yeah.
With 2 Alpha Omega style Part 1, Part 5 issues.
Man, and I like those books, all of those books are bare, like, single digits to teens sellers for us.
Sure, and off the rack, it's like low single digits, if that. Titans Academy fluctuates between being club only and not club only. Suicide Squad. Wait, what was the other one?
Suicide Squad, Titans Academy, Flash.
Is there a Suicide Squad running right now?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, yeah, it had, like, Peacemaker in it and stuff like that,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, okay. Yeah, none of that stuff is valuable as far as, like, DC books for us.
They have the big Josh Williamson
Shadow War,
which is Batman, Deathstroke, Inc., and Robin, all 3 books he writes.
Yeah.
Fine, it's all 3 books he writes.
But those have wildly different reader bases.
Yeah, I mean...
I'm not pulling Deathstroke for everyone who gets Batman.
Right.
That would, like...
You wouldn't.
That'd be like 8 times more copies of Deathstroke than I would normally order. I'm not doing that.
And it's harder for us to determine that because we just said, we did pull, Superman for Nightwing because it's the same creative team. This is the same writer, but it's such a large gap.
Yeah.
Like, so Batman sells all the way up here, Robin is down here, and then Deathstroke is below that.
Right.
So it doesn't feel right to do that.
No, the closest we've come is something like the Ten of Swords crossover, where we pulled, like, basically everyone who got X-Men was getting all of the Ten of Swords issues, which was sort of fine because while obviously, X-Men itself massively outsold, like, Excalibur, there was a general sense amongst X-Men people that this was a crossover they wanted all of. And obviously if anyone had opted out of it, totally fine. A few people did. We didn't pull the issues for them, no big deal. But we erred on the side of making sure that, no one found out in month 2 that they've missed an entire first month,
I had someone in today who picked up a book off the shelf and said, "Oh, yeah, can you add me to this?" And, like, it's already over. Mm-hmm. But all we had is number 1. Oh, well, I should get all the Critical Role stuff. Okay, well, there's a new hardcover graphic novel coming. I don't want that. Oh, so you don't want all Critical Role stuff? Okay.
I should have.
No, just the comics.
Or I want all of are
this
things I
comic.
never want to hear as far as the subscription service goes. These are all things that people could communicate to us and sometimes choose not to.
I saw an interview with Josh Williamson about Dark Crisis, and it's Dark Crisis 0, which is the free comic day book, which spins out of the death of the Justice League in
75.
Justice League 75. And it's because it's like Superman 75. And they're doing, Dan Jurgens is doing the same cover with all the... Yeah. And then there's going to be 2 one-shots.
Of course there are. I'm sure there's going to be way more than that by the end of it.
Yeah. But that's in between 0 and 1.
Yep. Great.
And man, all I can think of is how hard this is going to be to pull for people and to promote and to educate.
Yeah,
I appreciate them doing a free 0 issue to try to get people excited.
Yeah, so, I mean, this kind of gets to something that you and I had talked about a little while ago, where you had suggested that because of Managed Comics and the ability for people to go in and make alterations to their list 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, online, at their leisure,
that we don't need to be open anymore. You're right.
That we would be doing less of the, like, copying over people's pulls to different titles.
Oh, I mainly said that because there wasn't a batch add function.
Right, but just in general,
Yeah.
I think it sounded like something that you were more, like, philosophically opposed to, where it's like, why do we need to copy people over to Amazing Spider-Man when everyone can just go and add Amazing Spider-Man? Like, you've usually had the outlook that... Patrick?
I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off here, but I think, especially using Spider-Man, I think when we were talking about that, I literally was saying because it would take you hours of work to do it.
Oh, it's a gigantic pain in the ass to do it.
But
not anymore.
if they have a batch add function,
It's coming
happy to do it.
Later this week.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, in general, you've always been of the mind that the more we do for the subscribers, the more they expect us to do it for them. That you would rather...
Teach a man to fish.
Teach a man to fish is where I was
That's
going
exactly
with
what you're going to say. I think
I mean, that's because that's the best analogy is, you know, by... And that is something that we kind of believe as a store with Managed Comics is the, you know, the more people start using a system like Managed Comics and getting to know it and getting to take control of their subscriptions, then that gives them more confidence in what's going on and more knowledge about upcoming titles and creative team changes and variant covers and all the other stuff that might not normally be available to them. But the downside is, like, the ways that DC and Marvel keep doing really counterintuitive rollouts for big storylines, the more we have to do for people. Like, this stuff, like, the continual Marvel thing of doing, like, an 8-issue Darkhold miniseries that is not Darkhold 1 through 8. It's Darkhold Alpha and 6 one-shots, and then a Darkhold Omega. Means we have to keep going in and copying things over because no one's going to know what the next one is, and they don't want to have to go in every month for 8 months adding the next issue because that's not what a subscription means to them. And then the stupid War on Earth 3 thing where it's across 4 different titles, one of which is brand new for the event.
Yep.
All of this stuff is incredibly frustrating, and the Dark Crisis thing is maybe people will see an ad and maybe people will see some checklist if DC decides to print one up and put it in the back of their books. But for most people, they're only going to be aware of it when it hits the shelves, and then they're going to be like, hey, I thought I was down for this. And you're going to hear that, like a plaintive cry of a wounded animal, for 7 straight months. Hey, I thought I was down for this. Hey, I thought I was down for this. So it's like, you might as well just do it yourself as a store owner rather than hoping people can decode enough of DC's relentlessly antagonistic release schedule, because they won't.
I mean, at this point, they're doing it on purpose.
They really are. It's a thing that people have complained about for years as retailers, and I don't get it anymore. I don't understand why Marvel and DC, the simplest goddamn thing in the world, issue 1 through issue 6, or 12, or 8, or 20, or whatever.
6 numbers sell
and they
better
come
than
on
2, 3,
regular...
4, 5, 6. You know that.
I remember being at a Comics Pro thing when those were things that you could go to, and David Gabriel from Marvel getting yelled at by retailers, and a retailer stood up and said, why are you doing a series of issue 1s for a miniseries instead of an actual 5 or 6 issue miniseries? I order less because it's impossible to understand how to read these things, and they sell less because no one understands that they're part of a series. And David Gabriel was like, well, we don't believe that. And the retailer went, in this room, raise your hand if you would order more if it was a miniseries. Everyone's hands went up, and David Gabriel went, our data says differently. And it was just like, you can't win that argument then.
No.
If you tell him to his face, we would order differently if it was configured differently, and he went, you're a liar, then it's like, okay, great. Like, and that's why we get the system we get. Because you just have people at a publishing level who maybe have data, but it's the logic behind the data they don't have. They don't understand why we're doing what we're doing. And the ability for them to say, well, you wouldn't order more if it was a miniseries. Well, it's not like you gave us an option.
They don't have to. They just know.
We might have ordered a different miniseries at a lower rate because that was a different miniseries. It doesn't mean that we've decided as a class of customers that we will only order stuff that is a series of issue 1s. We're basically telling you we don't want to do that, and we resent having to be made to do that. So, yeah.
Even something
Still
like,
in 2022.
like Banner of War, which is mainly a crossover between two existing titles by the same
I
writer.
would love to just have a 5-issue Banner of War miniseries that I could pull for all my Hulk people,
Right,
or whatever.
but then they've announced an alpha,
Yep.
and then 4 parts of a crossover. There's going to be an Omega.
You'd assume.
You never do an
You'd
alpha
think.
just by itself.
Maybe
But
they are this time.
They haven't told us, so then we'll still have to go figure out
Yep.
who got
Oh yeah. Oh, it's the worst. Yeah, and every month there's shit like that. There's just something where it's like, why is it so hard to sign people up for this? Captain America Zero.
Yeah.
Captain America Zero is going to be 2 books after that.
Yeah.
Everyone signed up for Captain America Zero. What am I giving them? Both books? 1 book? No books? Do I have to start from scratch and email all those people and go like, which of the 2 ongoing series do you want? Because you're not signed up for either one of them currently. Super fun. Incredibly frustrating. I mean, this just gets back to my constant doomsday scenario of, what if we just got rid of the subscription service? We'd never have to worry about any of this. They show up on the rack. You order what you think is going to sell. Sold 50 copies of Hulk and 50 copies of Thor last month. Order 50 copies of the Banners of War issues. Order 75 if you think there's not, like, a ton of people. There you go.
There you
You
go.
sell out, you sell out. I don't know. Instead, it's having to constantly do this thing where it's like, okay, well, the releases of comic books are so, like, outright antagonistic that we have to come up with a way to protect our customers and our subscribers from the detrimental whims of major publishers. And that's, like, how did that end up being our job? How did our job end up being, like, acting as a shield for our customers so they will keep reading comic books? Like, how? Why? That seems like an unhealthy industry. Very weird. Very weird when you say it out loud like that.
That's what we're doing. We're saying it out loud every week.
Very weird.
Right here on this podcast, which is over. Thanks for listening.
Keep reading comics.
This has been Contest of Challengers. Thanks for listening. Keep reading comics. Challengers is located at 1845 Northwestern Avenue in the Bucktown neighborhood of Chicago. 773-278-0155. Keep up to date with new releases and events at challengerscomics.com. Like Challengers Comics on Facebook, follow @Challengers on Twitter, and help fund this podcast at patreon.com/challengers.